Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Sheldon, aka Dark Logos, and this is a show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. I'm tired, and I'm sick, and I probably shouldn't even be recording this episode. But I'm doing it anyway. I'm congested, have a mild headache, and runny nose, so bear with me on my vocality here. I know that it's nowhere near the best that it could be. So, yeah. All right. Today's show, what we're going to do is I'm going to have a brief commentary about the state of the game, and then I'm also going to talk about Thor Ragorok set review, because I haven't done that, and so we're gonna just do that for today. So anyway, I've been listening to various podcasts that are not heroclix related, primarily right now, just to try to move my thought and my mindset to different stages in life, but also to help try to provide my teammates better outlooks that will help them in the game. And one thing that I've learned working with people and working with great players is that if you spend your entire time just looking in the same pool of water, eventually it stagnates and it becomes festering and putrid. You have to go and look at different buckets of water to drink from time to time, to give you fresh insight and to rejuvenate yourself, because you really can't get all sufficiency just out of one bucket of water. So anyway, with that being said, I think one thing right now, after looking at the first round of WKOs, the ones that are constructed, is the community has found different ways to adapt and express themselves. Some are effective, some aren't that super effective against Unimind. But I think we're looking for the wrong solution overall, and I know, I think some people might feel that I'm taking too hard on the side of Jakeem on this, and I'm really not. But I think the mistake that the community has is that we need to have hard counters to Unimind. Something that's guaranteed to beat Unimind. Something that is, Macho Man Randy Savage to a 5-year-old matchup guaranteed win. And I don't think that's true. I think that's horrible. And I think that's one of the main problems that's gotten us into our current meta doom cycle right now. Is that the player base wants an absolute solution. And sorry for the water swigging. I started talking, and I haven't talked for like 2 hours. And so I started talking, my throat's like, you should have shut up, dude. You should not have opened your mouth. But our community wants these hard counters, and I think that that's a bad idea. And the main reason I think the hard counters become a bad idea is that it doesn't force an engagement, and it doesn't factor in for skill. I think we need stuff that creates 50-50 matchups, not necessarily rock, paper, scissors. And I think that's one of our bigger problems, is that we are looking at our problem solving as hard counters to decisively wipe the Unimind player. While as as pure-hearted as that may be, that's not the only way to an attack problem. And I think that it's really foolish if we try to pretend that that's the best and really the only option that we can use. Is that, that the goal should be to wipe Unimind. And I don't think that's the situation. I think that just makes everything horrible. And you might say, like, hey, man, what's made you sort of shift into this mindset? What really made me shift to this mindset, I'm hanging out on Saturday during while the WKOs are going on, and I'm on call for my teammates, and one of them tells me, like, hey, Florida, we didn't get enough people, and we didn't go into top whatever, and what we ended up doing is it was based off of points because there was no undefeated. Okay, so I look at that and I'm like, all right, cool. And then one of the teams got put out to me, and that team that won that event was a really good team. And I'm not going to say that team right now for two reasons. Number one, I want you to go look it up. Sorry about that. Number one, I want you to go look it up. And then second is I want you all to look at the philosophy shift with what this guy's doing. So anyway, there was the concept that was presented sort of tickled me a little bit, because someone said, hey, you know what? What if I run a bigger point bank than Unimind? What if I say that some of the average viewpoints on the subject matter of team design is fundamentally flawed when you approach this situation? Now, I say that as a person that promotes tenets. I'm a religious person, if you haven't noticed that by the show. But I also am a person that tackles some things by the facts, and also a problem solver person. Which some people I've interacted with wonder how I could have like all these different elements and arrive at conclusions that I arrive at. But what I find interesting is that there's this fear that if we break one of the heroclix tenets, then we will automatically fall into darkness and we won't win all the time due to all teams, because it's inevitable that in all cases that certain teams can never win, or certain types of philosophies just can't win. And that's where I think that the problem is. And I think that's one of the main reasons some of the upsets that occurred happened. There was one team I looked at, was a Beta Ray Bill team that utilized Al Jordan, and it won. And so I'm asking myself, like, did you face a Unimind? But I don't have that data. But let me just assume, that this guy did face a Unimind. What was he doing? Like, okay, so you have a character that can summon in Nighthawk. You have a character that can summon in 100-point Shield Hulk. You're not, you don't have a sideline that's just crammed full of Eternals. So you have some level of diversity in the characters that you can select with your round table. So, I mean, there's some ideas there that require people to sort of step out of their comfort zone and be like, oh, hey, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I could take this on. If Unimind has to come up and attack me with a melee attack, or spawn an ID card within 4 squares of me so that he can target me, then I should be able to solve for that. I should be able to say, hey, I can't up my stats, but I can lower your attack. I can lower your defense with my Al Jordan Perplex. So now you have to exert more energy to maintain what you have. So you have a choice. You can either have a decent defense, or you can deal with the reality that all your perplexes are going to be on ID cards, and I'm going to come to punk your Unimind. Okay. There are some parts in problem solving that not until literally yesterday was I able to buy a Chase Green Arrow. And when I look at all of the things that I had to do and figure out to just try to beat a Unimind and get past the stop clicks and do various things, it sort of surprised me. I wouldn't say how much I was pushing myself, but it actually reminded me of the time where I first went to Gen Con. When I went to my first World Championship, because I knew that there was a concept that needed to be in play. I just didn't know how. And so I ended up accepting some ways that I thought were inefficient to do what I needed to do. And then came to realize that I need to pair other ideas and concepts together so that I can make something cohesive. And so I'll be honest, and I won't release the team now. If enough people ask, I will, because I still might end up having to play it. But I spent a lot of time playing with Tyrannus. And what that really showed me with Tyrannus was that there's a ton of problems that comes up for Unimind and a lot of other teams if they have to deal with plasticity. Because you don't want to just phasing teleport in, because that allows you to be retaliated on. And I also think when it comes to technique, that a lot of us are putting too much weight on the build. That the build has to be carrying 60-75% of the load. And I don't think that's a good idea. I think some degree of skill has to come back into the game. If Kenny Pena and Wes Summers can do well at Rocktober and not run Unimind in the 300-point format, I'm not going to say everybody else there was punks or riding Easton's jock or anything like that. That's disingenuous. That's disrespecting everybody else's work, because there weren't people just copying Easton's build. There's people that made their own Unimind adaptations and stuff like that. But what it does show us is that what Wes and Kenny did was saying that just because you have a good spaceship, that doesn't mean that innovation needs to stop there. And I think that's a big deal. I think that's a really big deal. That because we are sort of in this indirect, it's like the mouse and running in the wheel. We build a team so that we can win an event, so that we can get the prizes that we can use to build a team so that we can win, to get the prizes, to use it. It's just this constant circle. Whether it's rock or whether it's whiz kids, that's the circle that we're operating in. And I think if we get off the circle and get off the wheel and say this, okay, hey, I'm getting better and I'm growing my skill set. What does it take for me to get out of this cage, not just to ride this wheel? Because getting out of this cage is more important than me running through this wheel. This wheel gets me fit, but it doesn't help me solve my problems. It doesn't let me be free of the situation. Now, whether getting out the cage is possible or impossible, that's another issue. I'm not even going to go into that. But I think for us to step back and just say, like, look, we're in a wheel. Let's address that first. And then also say, like, look, guys and gals that are out there, tech design and adaptation is based off of what players play. If what's dominant is what's the easiest, it doesn't mean that it's the only solution. But it does mean that it's the easiest. Now you can say, like, look, Paris played blank and that was complicated, this, that, and the other. And I could say, like, complicated to assemble, maybe. This isn't a slam on Paris. Complicated to assemble, but not super difficult to implement. And so that's some things where I look at is if someone says, like, oh, hey, there's a Jakeem team. Okay, Jakeem scales to the skill level of the player. Okay, so if I hand, Jakeem team to a player, that's 2 months in versus a person that goes to rock tournaments and doesn't place well versus a person that places well versus a person that makes top 16, at Rocktober, they're all those Jakeems are going to scale differently. But when you start to see, like, hey, it's the same team, but the results are equal to the skill level. But Pick a Power allows you to cover up a lot of skill weaknesses. And I think this is something I've said within Phoenix Nest, is you need to beat them with technique and stop beating them with your team. And so there's been teams where I've had people put dominant meta figures on and then have those figures be a distraction to everything else that they're doing. And having those dominant meta figures be pretty much like dead weights. Why is that? Because if you're beating them with technique, they can't just say, oh, you won because of Jakeem, you won because of Unimind, you won because of Goblin King. It's like, no, they're there, but he didn't hypersonic over and punch you in the face. He sat back and used support. I just, used Frogman, knocked him into the wall, knocked Missile into the wall, running shot, perplexed up his attack, running shot, pulse wave, hit like 2/3 of your team. And since they were all tokened up, when I hit you with this other character that does bonus damage equal to the amount of tokens on you, he did 2 more damage and hit you for like 4 damage. And I laughed. Like stuff like that. That's technique. Jakeem wasn't even really a factor that much in that situation. Okay? So, if we're complaining, like, oh, all we see is Unimind, like, maybe because we don't want to put in the work. Maybe. That's legit. That's a legit situation. Maybe because we don't want to put in the work, and the work is hard. And I'll say this, I'm not saying this out of any like smug, like, ha ha. I figured this out. You peons, go figure it out for yourself. No, I'm literally saying, as a person who spent the last 2 weeks caking over realms and digging through every possible, team concept and philosophy and format and stages of Unimind and all, like, tons of stuff. If some people can sneak peek into the Phoenix Nest hidden Forum Nest cave, okay, you would see me ask some questions about Unimind, and you would also see me post some frameworks about Unimind, but and some crazy teams, like, man, because he got high level teams almost. Okay, but because of that, I was able to sort of come through on the other side and be like, whoa, like, there's a lot of other things that we haven't really thought about in this game right now, and we haven't really taken them seriously because we are holding strictly to some core tenets here. And I told this to members on the team in the past. I'm like, look, man, you can say that I'm full of crap, but you at least have to prove it. Like, you can say I'm full of crap, but you got to prove it. If you prove to me that I'm full of crap in this situation, then go ahead and play the team. But if not, you have to abide by framework. And so this is one of those times where I've just had to sit back and be like, maybe the framework doesn't apply in this current situation. I need to make a better framework. So I'm going to leave with some thoughts that will help you if you're going to a WKO this weekend. If you're going to Omaha, I'll see you in Omaha. Hopefully I'm better by the time Omaha happens. And then we're going to go into the Thor set review. Thor Ragnarok. Number one, point banking is a big deal. But there's more than one way to invest. There's more than one way to invest. And all you need is a small return from your opponent to win. Another thing. Folks say Pogs are dead. They are wrong. They are gloriously wrong. The problem with Pogs is you need very, very, very specific pieces. And if it wasn't for me knowing one game element that was going to show up to Omaha, my Pog team would be a lot more fierce. A lot more fierce. Okay. I know someone would say it's like, but what about the Hawkeye? Yeah, what about the Hawkeye? What did Dark Logos figure out to make him not afraid of Hawkeye? Take some time to think about that. Just take some time to think about that. What could you do that says like, hey, yeah, drop your Hawkeye? That's the worst thing you could possibly do. Okay. Another thing that I've learned is we have fully underestimated a lot of Colossals. A whole lot of Colossals. And there are some cool things that we can do utilizing those Colossals that I don't think that most players want to go and look at. And it's sort of sad because being able to break down some of these Colossals and say either by health or by function, I can play blank blank this type of game in an ID card meta. I think it's astounding. And this is me not like secretly backpatting Brainiac Skullship. I mean, and I know again, some folks might be like, "Oh my gosh, he's on a cold delirium on this show." But when I started looking at some of the colossals, and I started looking at them and asking myself, like, and I'll give you an example. The Skyscraper Wonder Woman at 225. And a lot of people might think, like, man, that sucker's trash. Why would you run Skyscraper Wonder Woman at 225? And I'm like, well, if you take a moment to look at her, she does a lot of cool stuff that hardly anybody talks about outside of her colossal retaliation, which I think is a big underestimation of what she can do. She has a 7 range. She has a stop click. She has a good deep amount of health. She has a reasonable attack, not a stupid high attack, but she has a reasonable attack. Okay, there are tons of ID cards from either applying the teleporter or applying the round table. Teleporter or the Supreme Intelligence that allow her to function very efficiently. Very, very efficiently. With very little liability. And I know, again, some people might say, nah, I don't believe that. I'm like, okay, cool. And one of the main reasons that I like her in particular is not just that she could just call in huge stuff and rain down hell on you, is that when push comes to shove, you can't stop her from running. You just can't. The fact that she has improved movement destroys blocking. You cannot hinder any form of her movement. Alright. And that's one thing that gives her a distinct advantage over a lot of other people and a lot of other figures. Is that because you can't stop her from moving and getting away, she can get to wherever she wants. Giant reach, or using her range from hypersonic speed, she's going to get to where she wants to get. And that means that once she scores points, she can dip set anywhere. Anywhere. And she has the survivability to go kill a Nighthawk Prime and take some hits. And she has 2 keywords that we really have overlooked: cosmic and robot. And there's stuff that you can utilize with her for to make her better. And I just think we haven't looked at it. It's like all of a sudden, Baxter Stockman is crap. Baxter Stockman. Oh, how we're not dealing with, Justin Seyfried, Edward, and we're not dealing with Krang. How dare you invoke Baxter Stockman? And how is she killing, the Nighthawk Prime, because we all know that Nighthawk Prime is going to only fail shape change on a 0. And I really jest, but there are a lot of things, like I said, I think we're just underestimating, and there's a lot of things where I think that we're just being lazy. And there's some cool stuff out there that if we run a certain level of risk and not just being like, yep, I lose no points, and understand that a good game state is if we bring it back to a 50-50 or a 55-45. That's a healthy game state. I think we'll be doing a lot better. So that's the end of the rant ramble. That's half the show. So I know some of you all don't like that, so I apologize, and we're gonna get into this Thor Ragnarok movie review. I saw the movie. I enjoyed it. I made the mistake of eating beforehand, and I ate for like 10 minutes because I thought they were going to just show like the previews of other movies and whatnot, and I was wrong. They promptly started to show at the time that they said they were, and I lost like the first 10 minutes of the movie, sadly. So I don't know what happened there, and I think I went to the restroom once, so I probably missed like 15 minutes of the movie. So yeah, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. I will say I do like Kate Blanchett or whoever the heck the chick is that plays Hela. I actually feel like this is, a non-campy Marvel villain. I do hate the fact that they kill every Marvel villain that they get. I do hate that. Like you could say Caecilius is not dead, but functionally he's dead. But overall, I dislike the fact that they just get rid of every Marvel villain to resolve the plot. When leaving some of those villains, like in particular Ultron, like heck yeah, Ultron as a rogue element that comes back during Infinity, like Thanos gets a hold of Ultron and uses him to be like functionally like the hordes that the heroes had to fight against, and on top of the Cabal. That would be great. But again, I'm not a writer for Marvel. I'm just some guy on the internet. So let's start with Thor. Number one comment, Thor. I think overall, he's alright. I wish he had some like freaking lightning fist things. But he doesn't. But he has allies in the gladiatorial arena. He does knockback, which is thematically appropriate. Free, make a close attack, but only to target an opposing character that was already knocked back at least one square by another friendly character this turn. Now, this sets up for the Hulk, which is number 3, but we'll get to that later. I like this. You just need to be very careful on your knockback. I think this has some control potential, just mainly as if you land the hit on top of the blades, you're able to also knock back equal to the blades damage dealt to pretty much give yourself an additional +1, or if you knock them off elevated, including flyers, people, don't forget about that, for an additional +2. So that's another element that we need to be mindful of. Number 2, Loki is really expensive for what he does, because you're primarily paying for the God of Deceit. Him having Outwit and Prob, which you can get both together in 2 other figures for a cheaper package and a little bit more efficient, because once he gets hit, he's going to lose it. Now, we also, I think this character was designed under old region so that you can get back to top dial potentially. Under new region, you're going to get lucky if you get back to that Outwit and Prob, so I wouldn't depend on it. Having super senses in toughness, and then being able to move into an adjacent square after he rolls super senses, and you succeed on super senses. I like that. Is it movie accurate? Yeah, it sort of is. But I do like the fact that this allows you to get some placement shenanigans. You can get away. Definitely when you're dealing with these Hulks. Then we're going to go into Hulk. The Hulk is deceiving. The Hulk is deceiving because he looks like trash. He looks like trash up front, but he's not trash. He's a B minus figure. So here's why. Allies in the laboratory arena. Knockback free. Make a close attack, but only target opposing character that was already knocked back at least one square by another friendly character this turn. So you have Thor. You have Thor hit somebody for whatever. Doesn't matter. Knocks them back. Then you sidestep Hulk, and then Hulk use CCE. He just makes, he uses CCE, punches them, doesn't choose knockback because he just makes an attack, then free attacks them, knocks them back over to Thor. Thor gets to attack for free. So, I know some of you might say, hold up, wait. What did you just say? And it seems silly. But, again, what I say is it's technique. You gotta understand technique. It's not something like, oh yeah, I just automatically do this. It's technique. So pretty much, Thor hits, does knockback, knocks the character over to Hulk. Hulk hits, chooses not to do knockback, does a standard attack, then uses the free attack, to then knock back the character over to Thor again. Thor, since that character was knocked back by another character, okay, and at least one square, then Thor triggers and goes off. You could also use Frogman. So there you go. You can get 4 attacks utilizing these 2 characters. Or if you just want to use 2 Thors, there you go. Alright. Next up is Heimdall, which I need to get one for Black History Month. I haven't had a Heimdall in quite a while. But Heimdall's okay. He's not impressive. He's just okay. He has the come with me to safety phasing teleport when Heimdall uses it. He has Passenger 3, but only carry characters with the Asgardian keyword, which I'm not going to lie to you is a bit expensive. But if he had phasing, and you find a way of giving him phasing, this dude is broke strong. Because he could carry Beta Ray Bill, he can. Well, no, yes, maybe. You're granted carry, but no. You couldn't carry Beta Ray Bill. But you could carry a bunch of grounded characters like the Warriors 3 and get them out of trouble so they don't get killed by they just don't get murdered by your opponent. So do I wish he had moving attack up front? Yeah, really, I do. He has the eyes of the eagle, super senses. When Heimdall uses it, roll 2d6 and choose one to be the result. That's a little lame, but it's okay. You're hedging your bet just slightly, but it's okay. The problem comes in is that if he gets rocked at all, he's going to be back on sidestep and toughness or something like that. So, unfortunately, the charge and the blades and him with the 1 damage, I hate that. But it's just to make him at his price point cheap. So, he's not the hero of the story. So, yeah. Alright, next up is Valkyrie. Common Valkyrie here. And last of her kind trait once per game when Valkyrie would be KO'd by an opponent's attack and is adjacent to a friendly character. with the higher point value, turn her to click 5 instead. It's not bad. It allows her to sort of take a hit, considering her dial's so short. I like it. Now, sorry, you have to be adjacent to friendly character with a higher point value. I apologize. I don't think I said that. I like this, but I think you're in a disadvantage because you can't play like her with Hulk or her with Thor from this set. You have to like play them with a better Hulk and Thor if you're trying to recreate the movie. Yeah. Now, I do think her having charge, blades, defend, and power is genius. Beautifully genius. Now, you might say, like, why is that genius? Well, let's first look at it. Number one, you have charge, so you can't be knocked back. Number two, you have defend. So because you have charge, they can't knock you away using some other game effect to lower whoever you're protecting's defense. Then you have empower, so if you're clustered up, you're also increasing their damage output. She's a great support piece, and lo and behold, if you need to get into the fray, you use charge and blades, and her damage value isn't high, so you're not paying for a high damage value. She's great. Sad part is she will hardly ever get played. Her digital sculpt is crap. We'll say that. I might need to get her for Black History Month. Somebody remind me during Black History Month that she's black. Alright. Next up, you got freaking dual wielding lightning Thor. Like the good Thor. I wish he had some range, but I understand why not. And I understand they're trying to keep this like gladiatorial effect. But if you watch the movie, he shoots lightning a couple of times. You could have given him 4 range or something. But, hey, that might have made it more expensive. Quick notes. I like that he's 100 points and 8 clicks deep, which means that your opponent actually has to invest some time to slug through this dial. Is slugging through this dial the best thing that can happen? No. He doesn't stay... He doesn't become more wonderful. He does stay pretty consistent, though, so I do like that. Anyway, you have needs to learn humility. When Thor takes damage from an opponent's attack, give him a number of humility tokens equal to the damage clicked. Free, remove any number of humility tokens. For each humility token removed, modify either attack or damage by +1 until your next turn. Now, if it said like any stat, that would have been great. But it's attack or damage. So functionally, you could get a 13 attack or 6 damage or something like that. But I wouldn't bank on that. Alright, number 7 Loki. Only reason I like number 7 Loki is because you're able to combine it with the Odin. That's it. Other than that, there's no reason to care about that. Yeah, that's it. I mean, he's okay, and I know some folks are like, you're just going to gloss over him like that, Dark Logos. He's a little bit better, and you talked about the crap Loki, but here's my problem. You're dependent on God of Lies, and you are also not doing that much different than the other Loki, which having Prob and Outwit gives you a little bit more control, and you have super senses, versus just shape change and exploit weakness. But let's see, was it slowing distress free? Choose 2 opposing characters that are adjacent to each other and are both within 6 squares in line of fire to Loki. Place one of them into a square adjacent to its current square. This is great when you combine it with dueling swords. So now you're able to get like a 12 attack on, characters that you need to. Looking back, you know what? I may have underwritten the first Loki just a bit, number 2, just a little bit, but I still like the number 7 one because it works with the Odin. All right, so then we're getting to the 100-point Hulk. He pretty much works like Thor, except he's better. Leap climb, because here's what I'm looking at. If you're able, because he has invincible, and if you're able to disable your opponent's outwit, he moves up, picks up a heavy, and just sits next to somebody. And if they're dumb enough to hit Hulk, and they can't do enough to get him off of super strength, he just says, okay, and removes the token, and ups his attack, and then whaps them really good. So, I'm a fan of this Hulk in passing. I think it's a good Hulk. Again, 8 clicks deep. You're getting your 11 attacks earlier, unlike the Thor. So, something to think about. Okay, so Heimdall's back again at 100 points. Not really giving us as much value as Thor and Hulk, though. He has a once per game effect where he remove an action token from all friendly characters within 6 squares with Asgardian keyword. This sounds great, but it specifically says remove an action token, so you only are taking off one. That's it. It can be good for some tempo situations, but yeah, that's it. Other than that, I'm not a fan of this. Then you have Eyes on Asgard. There's a joke there, but I'm too tired to find it. Probability control opposing characters within 4 squares. Line of Fire can't use probability control. As cool as this would be, the fact that it's limited to 4 squares in Line of Fire is bad. I mean, he's freaking Heimdall. He sees everything. He sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. He knows when you're bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. He's freaking Heimdall. Okay, why does he need Line of Fire? Well, we've had other characters with like similar effects or just a pure aura. So that's stupid, so I don't like that. Oh, gosh. Alright, so let's talk about Grandmaster. Let's see who's stronger. I do believe that this can be meta. My problem is this. I don't believe Grandmaster can stay alive long enough. Because to me, he has a big target plan on his face, and giving up 75 points for, for a 4-click figure for your opponent could just be like, meh, I'm going to go punk that before you figure out some weird thing. I think that that's horrible. But let's read it. Let's see who's stronger. Power. Choose a friendly character and an opposing character adjacent to it. So no Proteus shenanigans this time, people. Both within range and line of fire, the opposing character makes a close attack targeting your friendly character, then a friendly character makes a close attack targeting the opponent. So you set this up where the champions or whatever, your opponent's character punches a mystic or sets off some chain reaction where it's like, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, stop hitting yourself, type thing. And that's pretty cool. And he has a 9 range, so he can be rather far back and get this sucker off, get this affair going. He has a special button on his in his private spaceship for that. But here's the problem. Again, like, I just see somebody shoot him from downtown, or Mistress Death gets TK'd up and like pops him with Mjolnir, and it's good night, Mr. Grandmaster. So I don't like this one completely. Again, 75 points for a 9-range prob. I don't know. Alright, let's talk about somebody I do like really, really well. That's not even proper English. Alright, let's talk about a figure that I enjoy and I think has a lot of potential in the game. Odin. Number 11, Odin. Now, you could tell this Odin was probably built off of some different concept art than the Odin for the movie, but that's fine. They had to, get this crap shipped out from China. So, like, they didn't have time for getting, the reshoot of Anthony Hopkins in the suit in the place where I can't talk about. But it did remind me of the scene with the wolf guy from Powers, in part, minus the blood. And I'm trying not to spoil it. I don't care personally about spoilers, but I know some people do when they listen to the show. So anyway, so Odin's 3 clicks. He has Mastermind. He has Leadership. He has Sidestep. This dude is great. So at 25 points, taking tokens off of all manner of Asgardians, or rulers, or warriors, like, this was a mistake by WizKids that 80% of the people will not pay attention to because they're looking at Unimind. Okay, this is good. This is good for the game. While it's a mistake at the same time. Permanently increasing your action total for 25 points is great. Having Mastermind, that he can mastermind to a lot of different characters that have, I think, a shared keyword with them, regardless of point value, is great. The Sidestep to get himself in a position, even better. He can't attack and he can't damage anybody. Okay? This is fine. Oh, never mind. This is him on the watching the play. So never mind. I was wrong. Anyway, he has gain Odin's favor, and I'm going to start there versus pay the additional 25 points. Each time a friendly character with Asgardian keyword hits an opposing character, immediately give them an Odin's favor token. Friendly characters with one more Odin's favor token. That's wrong. Friendly characters with one more, should be one or more Odin's favor token modify attack by +1. Okay, so you're minus all of the silliness with Nighthawk Prime. If you're able to pump up your Asgardians. I just realized what I said. You're able to increase the attack of your Asgardians and make them a little bit more silly. And I like it because here's the thing. You up their attack and then they hit. You immediately add an Odin's favor token. So you just get it right back. Like, oh, hey, I have an Odin's favor token. Oh, never mind. You don't even remove it. Oh, gosh, yeah. So you just keep you get a free +1 attack just for hitting people. Then you have the 25 points you could pay, which I don't really like, but I understand. And I know I'm sort of contradicting myself. I like this Odin for his point cost. But if you're trying to do other deep shenanigans, the other 25 points you pay are also worth it. Okay? I just don't like that it's so high. Alright, so it says, you fools have been doing my bidding this whole time. During force construction, you may include the 2 Lokis on your sideline when an Odin favor token is given. After resolutions, roll a d6 on a 5 through 6. Replace Odin with Loki on the same click number +1. So if you're on 3, you can be on 2. If you're on 2, you can be on 1. Other than that, it's great. Now, here's the thing. You've gained 20 points in value by doing this. So it's okay, but it's not like, woo, game breaking. But if you have a plan to, like, when you know, like, mid or late game, like, I don't need this extra action anymore. Or I don't need to constantly be taking tokens off these broke figures. I'm going to go and turn to Loki and just outwit and prod people. I don't know. Like, if you're playing that in the teleporter tech, good for you, man. Good for you. Alright, then we have our drunken bar brawler, Valkyrie. Once again. Her trait is inspiration in the heat of battle. Friendly characters within 4 squares modify attack and damage by +1 if they were damaged during the previous turn. And this is, for 50 points, it's not bad. You combine that with Odin, you can get some good steroids going on, so your characters aren't gimped. Probably another word I probably shouldn't use in this podcast with all these Asgardians. So you're. And I will hate to say it, I got that freaking joke from Young Avengers. And it's just like when my friend showed me that comic book with Wiccan, when he was still called Asgardian, and Hulkling, I was just like, and that joke has like burrowed itself in my head. So the Valkyrie's not bad, but it's like, again, nothing to write home about. Probably the better character to use for my Black History Month team. Better Valkyrie. But, yeah. Alright, next up is Grandmaster. Now, this one is great. I like this Grandmaster a lot. Now, I know some of you might say, hey, Dark Logos, that's very, very expensive. And I agree. He's very expensive for what he does. But it's a huge... Gosh, why couldn't they be called something else? Oh. There's a huge caveat on this. Number 1 is his movement. Number 2 is he has a bunch of just great stuff. It's like, okay, so let's just go into it. Holograph projection. Grandmaster's actions don't count against your action total. So he just bounces around the board and does whatever the heck he wants to do. His combat values can't be modified. So you can't make him attack or... Okay. Alright, but here's the thing, people. Nothing said anything about replacement values. Hardy har. So, if you can figure out something cool, that'd be great. Then, his values can be modified, and he takes a maximum of 1 damage from a ranged attack. Okay. Master Manipulator. At the beginning of your turn, you may turn Grandmaster to another click. If you do, at the end of your turn, roll a d6 and turn Grandmaster to that click number. He can't be healed in any other way. Now, you can always get what you want, but you might not end the dial where you need. Okay. if you roll a 1 or 2, you're sort of golden. Really, a 3, 2, if you roll a 3 as well, you're pretty golden. You roll a 4, 5, or 6. Ooh, that's risky territory there. That's real risky territory. Now, I also like the fact that, again, he only takes 1 damage from range attacks, but he does take pushing damage, so that is something to remember. Like, he's not immune from all damage. Yeah, so he can still get punched in the face really good, but yeah, I mean, it's a very good piece that allows you to get into position and do a lot of awesome stuff. So, I like it. I definitely like it. Alright, let's keep going. Then you have the I'm trying to attack Odin, which is craptastic. It's really craptastic. And here's why. You look at the damage values. You look at the damage reduction. You look at everything in here. You're like, wow, this should be an economical little cannon to put on my team. But at 6 clicks and no, ignore Pulse Wave, he's going to get wrecked. He's going to get wrecked hard. And it sucks. It really does suck. Or even more so, Unimind rolls up and says, you have a 1 damage. Or you have a 9 attack and a 2 damage. Have a good day. There's nothing you can do. So I personally don't like this. I know some people like it, and I know it's gotten some okay reviews on Realms, but I think he's horrible. Fenris Wolf, I don't even know why he didn't do that much. Anyway, swallow you whole each time Fenris Wolf KOs an opposing character. After resolutions, give it a growth token. If it has 1 growth token, it has giant. If it has 2 or more growth tokens, it has colossal. If it has 3 or more growth tokens, modify all combat values by +1. Which wouldn't be bad if, for one, he had Steel Energy, and 2, if he had Steel Energy with it, it would actually be worth it to have all this stuff, but he doesn't. And he's really just the Paw Killer, because all you have to do is just outwit his blades, and he does 1 damage. He's not really designed to go out there and be aggressive and kill that many figures. He can't, because it's like they didn't know that outwit is a thing in this game. He's easy to counter. So he's like a C grade figure, unfortunately. Anyway, you have powerful jaws. He can use Blaze Claw's Fangs. Fairness Wolf uses Blaze Claw's Fangs, increase the results of the D6 by the number of growth tokens it has. So you could Haymaker at the end, but chances are you're just going to outwit that. And he has super sensitive toughness up front, which again, it's bound to just be outwitted. So I don't have much love for Fairness Wolf. Hella 100 points of meh. It really is. It's 100 points of meh. She has the trait where she starts the game with a Rise token. When a character that isn't a bystander is KO'd, heal Hella 1 click and give her a Rise token free. Remove a Rise token and generate a Fallen Warrior bystander. And the Fallen Warrior is charged to the attack. Combat reflex is 2 damage. This is crap. it's crap. If she was able to make characters fallen warriors off of bystanders, I would have said that she is the new Pog Queen. Like she's the Pog Queen. But because they made it so that you couldn't do bystanders, she's very, very piss poor of a character. Because if you're looking at killing an opponent's standard figure, and let's just say that standard figure is 100 points, getting a character with charge, 10 attack, and 2 damage with combat reflexes really isn't going to help you. It's not. And with 0 range, that doesn't help things either. I mean, and I know it's like, hey, there's fodder for my round table or a teleport. I get that, but it's not good enough justification. So I really, 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 really am going to pass on this Hela. If you get it, just sell it on eBay. Yeah, just sell it on eBay. All right, that's my review of the set. Overall, there's some cool stuff in here. I would say don't break your wallet for any of the stuff in here. There's more than enough things that just make you say, oh, that's sort of cool. I could play that. And I would actually encourage, everyone to come back and look at the figures in the set and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm going to casual night, I'm going to play this. And, I also think like playing around in home games is another good thing. If I would say like stuff that you really should buy, the number one Thor, the number one Hulk is like if you have the change, but you should be able to pull those two real easily. The number 6 Thor I really think is excellent. The number 8 number 8 Hulk is also excellent, and definitely Odin and the Grandmaster number 13. Definitely get the Grandmaster. I like that one. Number 13 Grandmaster, not number 10. And number 11 Odin, not number 14 Odin. But yeah, I think overall it's not a bad little set. It reflects the movie good enough. There's no reenactments that I could see that would be worth a darn that you can make with this, because you would, unless you want to just give Hela a bunch of fallen warriors, which makes you wonder how weak are the Asgardians for them to be punked by the fallen warriors from jump. I'm just wondering. Alright, that's it for today. Thank you all for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at StarOverPod. It came from outer space and told me in Sector 3902-BC93 there is a place inside of a singularity well that has the cure for all diseases, but none dare go into it, for the cure is death. You can find out when the news shows up through Twitter. You can also email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it pithy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome. I can't do the vocal stuff right now. You can wow. I guess I'm just falling off. So thanks for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.